Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're talking Formula One and a whole lot more with Jeremy Aguero of Applied Analyst here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you. But we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always delighted to welcome back to the program, although it's been too long, Jeremy Aguero. He is the principal analyst with Applied Analyst. Pleasure to have you back on the program, sir.
Oh, gosh, Sam, thanks so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. We have just completed the second year of Formula One. What is your take from an economic point of view?
Well, I don't know that we quite have all the numbers in yet. Okay, I don't think we have any expectation that the 2024 numbers are going to match the 2023 numbers, but really they shouldn't, Sam, because there was so much capital investment that really went on last year. That having been said, certainly race day was packed. There was a lot of economic activity that was going on, and you know, I think some of the ancillary activities that were happening around the city also helped give us a boost in terms of a traditionally very slow period for Las Vegas. So not only do we have a race that was viewed around the world, but we had a pretty substantial event in downtown, and then we had a Raiders game on Sunday. So we're really hopeful that the totality of that really lifts the community. But Formula One in and of itself is going to be measured in the hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of economic impact. So we're in the middle of measuring it, and I expect it to be pretty substantial.
You know, one of the things that I said after the race last year was, and the complaints about other properties outside of the racetrack not making as much money, was that over time this needed to develop like NFR, where not everybody could get to Thomas and Mack to actually see the rodeo, but you could go to any hotel on the Las Vegas Strip and see the rodeo, be a part of the parties and all that. And it seemed like this year, especially with Derek Stevens and what they were doing downtown, that they really started down that path.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, what Formula One and the LVCVA and really Clark County was able to pull off last year was nothing short of kind of a miracle. I mean, being able to sort of reconstruct the Las Vegas Strip, and there's no doubt that there were growing pains associated with it. I think everyone recognized that. The progress that was made between last year and this year relative to urban mobility and certainly the uplift on the city, more broadly defined, was substantial in terms of a move in the right direction. I expect us to continue to get better next year. Like you said, I mean, the first year of any major event can be something that's a little bit tricky and a little bit difficult, but no doubt that it was a major positive for the city.
It seemed to me that with the help of the incoming Senior Vice President, Lori Nelson, that there was a tremendous amount of community outreach this time around. And that really involved the city in a way that it should have been involved from day one, bringing in parents, bringing in kids, STEM. There were lots of different things that were different from the first year around. Obviously there are lawsuits in progress, and I'm sure you can't comment on those. But if we take a mythical event, is there a way to make businesses that are affected by a major event somewhere, let's say Pahrump, just for argument's sake, how do you make businesses whole or attempt to make them whole or get them involved if they are negatively affected by something that is so successful elsewhere in your community?
Yeah, it's a really difficult question to answer. I mean, I'm going to go back to what you said originally, and Lori Nelson is a value add no matter where she goes, and there's no doubt that the social aspects, the community aspects associated with Formula One continue to be paramount in terms of what this project intends to do. You talked about involvement in schools and involvement in charities. I'll tell you, I mean, these are things that Formula One and its leadership brought forward last year, but they were really overshadowed by some of the other challenges. And again, the learning curve associated with figuring out how to do these things better is always something that you kind of saw evolve. As you mentioned, there's always this potential impact associated with certain businesses in certain areas, associated with projects, including Formula One. And, you mentioned that some of these are now, in the court system and being determined. There's a part of me that's kind of glad that we have a third party arbiter in terms of the courts that are kind of evaluating those, so that certainly if there is an impact, that we have an impartial trier of fact that can sort of evaluate all the facts associated with it. Look, Sam, I don't know. I mean, you bring up any number of projects that can have impacts, whether that's on traffic or certain things that are happening downtown or happening on the strip or happening off strip. There's no doubt. There's both events that have this tremendous lift to certain projects and some that maybe don't impact them as much or maybe even have a negative impact on some projects. The reality is that in some ways we measure it relative to the community as a whole. And there's no doubt that we don't want anyone to have a negative impact. But if we look at the aggregate in terms of total amount of activity that's happening in the community, there's no doubt, I don't by every measure, that is lifting the entire community up. And so as we look to find different ways in terms of traffic management, in terms of finding ways of sponsorship, in terms of finding ways of working collectively to make sure that we're not having a negative impact on downtown, on small businesses, on employees that are trying to get back and forth to work, or even things like first responders. I think that is largely about the learning curve that we've been talking about relative to any major project and looking for ways to minimize those impacts where we can. It will never, ever be eliminated altogether, but I think that the hope is that as the community continues to rise altogether, that we think about major events within this community and throughout this state, that hopefully over the, maybe not one weekend or one day, where those impacts can be, maybe up or down for individual properties or individual businesses, but hopefully the uplift is tremendous across the board. And as, we learn more about how to operate these, as we get past some of these conflicts that maybe are going to end up in the court system, and we find a way to find that balance, I'm very hopeful that what the end measure is a benefit to the community as a whole.
One of the things I found very interesting this past weekend was to visit with a marketing director who is also a player, who was at Formula One and was making the point. He was at the Bellagio stands outside there by the Fountain Club. And he said it was extraordinary, just an incredible event. The food and the decor was just stunning, and then being obviously right there by the racetrack. But he brought up the point that, gambling has dropped to such a low percentage by comparison in Las Vegas, around 32%. The rest is made up of food and beverage, entertainment, hotel rooms, etc. Does that surprise you, or was it always heading that way, over the last decade, that it was just going to continue to grow, that these other things were going to outweigh, because gambling is spread across the world?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, that's kind of a complicated question. Sam, I don't know if you had the opportunity to meet like Renee Welm or Emily Prazer or the Formula One team. Stephanie Domenicali, Domenicali, who runs Formula One. I mean, these are folks that they don't do anything that isn't absolutely top end, that isn't absolutely first class. I mean, the experience of their fans, the experience of the teams is what matters most. I mean, that experience that you mentioned was one that I think was shared by, all the fans across the board, but it also puts Las Vegas on an incredible international stage relative to all of that. Now, the second half of your question really deals with the idea of the visitors that are coming to Las Vegas. And look, what we do know from last year, from the quarterly reports of companies like MGM and Wynn Resorts and others, is that, that while gambling, there's no doubt, has decreased as a share of total revenue, that for this event in particular, the gaming lift was remarkably high. I mean, whether we look at Formula One or other major events like the Super Bowl, for example, Sam, what we've seen is the uplift and the gross gaming revenue numbers, as well as the room revenue numbers that are reported for Las Vegas, are at or near the highest we have ever seen in Southern Nevada's history. And if we think about that in terms of a weekend that has been traditionally slow, even a month that has been traditionally slower from a gross gaming revenue standpoint, the fact that we are now seeing that kind of lift is obviously something that's very positive, not just for our gaming companies, but also for state and local governments, most notably with regard to gaming revenue, our state governments, which are highly dependent upon revenues, including those gaming revenues, to drive everything from all of the services that state governments provide for us. So, yes, you're right about the fact that our gaming industry has evolved beyond just gaming revenue being this major source. But events like this are driving gaming and non-gaming revenue to some of the highest levels we've ever seen.
It really is amazing. Let's take a break. When we come back, I got a whole bunch of other things I want to cram in here today, because if I'm only going to get you once every while, I want to get it all in. Let's take a break. We'll be back with Jeremy Aguero after this timeout.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
Story County is leading Nevada. Home of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, Google, Tesla, Panasonic, and other world-leading companies. Story County provides thousands of tech, advanced manufacturing, and logistics careers for Nevadans. We're diversifying and driving Nevada's economy and generating millions in tax revenue and billions in economic activity across northern Nevada. Story County is leading Nevada's future.
Welcome to the Ahern Boutique Hotel, where luxury and warmth come together in the heart of Las Vegas.
We take pride in offering a one-of-a-kind experience
for both locals and tourists.
Join us for handcrafted cocktails and an unforgettable experience.
Joel's Chop House, the perfect place to savor views of the Las Vegas Strip.
Satisfy your cravings at the Ahern Chocolate Shop.
No smoking, no resort fees, and the parking is always free. The Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel is your home away from home.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Jeremy Aguero. He's the principal analyst with Applied Analysis, the state's top firm, let's say, put it like that. Let's talk about Allegiant Stadium. Did you, in your wildest dreams, think that it could be as successful as it has become, despite all the doubters at the beginning?
Look, I think we always, Sam, expected it to be successful. I don't know that we expected it to be as successful as it has been. I mean, you have to give just tremendous credit to Mr. Davis and the Raiders, not only for building an asset that is a draw in and of itself. I mean, it is just a phenomenal project, but also for programming at the level that they have, right? I mean, it's not just Raiders games, right? I mean, UNLV is putting 40,000 people in that stadium for UNLV games. You've got concerts like BTS and Taylor Swift and countless others, international soccer matches. Sam, these things are drawing that tremendously. And, I mean, they'll have literally hundreds of sort of non-ticketed special events that are going to be there as well. I mean, that has been just a terrific asset to drive it. Now, there were a lot of naysayers about, I think, that some folks indicated it was the worst economic development deal. And I understand where they're coming from, because I think there are a lot of very suspect deals relative to arenas and stadiums and those type of things around the country. But Las Vegas has this extra layer of 40 million visitors and 150,000 hotel rooms, which allows us to leverage our core industry better than anywhere else in the United States.
It really is amazing. And explain, if you will, because I've had this argument, I think going back to star bonds, when one of my favorite legislators, Debbie Smith, and I disagreed vehemently about star bonds, because to me, a patch of empty land is not developing any revenue. Whereas if you put buildings up on it and you delay the revenue a few years, then you're going to make money, you're going to create jobs. There are all kinds of benefits. The same story goes when you're trying to develop a stadium that's using public funds. What's your answer to folks who decry this as a poor use of public money?
No, look, I mean, I think the proof is very clear. The revenues that are being generated, the jobs that are being generated, the economic opportunity that is being generated. Sam, I think we just need to go back to 2023 and look at the legislative session and an additional $2 billion making its way to K through 12 education. If you look at where revenues came from, it didn't have all to do with sports and entertainment and all those type of things, but that was certainly a driving force. Beyond that, Sam, I realize that there are, externalities. We have to balance growth and make sure that we're growing the right way. But to your point, I mean, look at some of the other economic development projects that have driven prosperity for Nevada as a whole. I mean, Tesla and the development that has occurred there. I mean, no doubt that there's real challenges along I-80, but the number of jobs and high-paying jobs that have been created. And, now as some of the tax abatements start to wear off, I mean, Story County is going to be in a very favorable position relative to the revenue that it's generating. And that's a really good thing, not just for Story County, but it's a great thing for the state of Nevada.
The A Stadium. The cost of the stadium has gone up, no shock there. How do you feel about the stadium project? And that corner is so busy already, but it seems like even the idea of the stadium boosted MGM to look at Luxor and Excalibur and Mandalay Bay. So it looks like, down the road, this is going to be a huge benefit for that corner.
Yeah, look, I mean, the price of everything's going up, so there's no surprise there. But the other part is, I think I'm really encouraged by the reasons why the price going up. It's not just inflation. It's also programming some additional amenities into the stadium to make it more viable, more valuable, and a greater asset to the community overall. I mean, when we think about that corner and transportation, I mean, the thing that I think we have to kind of remember is that that transportation and that mobility is more important to the A's and the folks from Bally's than it is to anybody. They have every interest, a couple $1 billion plus in interest to make sure that that transportation works and that those fans have a tremendous experience. And I think that's also, at the forefront of Clark County. I think sometimes we forget what a remarkable job that Clark County Public Works has really done in terms of managing transportation. I mean, Sam, if you think about all of the assets that have been added to the Las Vegas Strip, hotels like Resorts World, an expansion to the convention center, a project like the Sphere, and yet mobility continues to be pretty great in Southern Nevada. As a matter of fact, we rank relatively high. Now, I think we still have a lot of work to do to be able to maintain that. And I think the A's are going to have to be a big part of that, as is Bally's in terms of that development. But I think that the A's stadium is going to be a value add to that corner. It's also going to be a value add to our community overall. And I'm looking forward to the games being played there.
You know, what's funny is that the monorail that was mocked for so many years, things falling off of it in the early days, and what a boondoggle, and a couple of bankruptcies that went along, and then the Convention Authority buys it, and all of a sudden it's making a profit, and they're looking at the potential. They were talking, Steve Hill on the program was saying, 10-year lifespan. Now they're looking to find a manufacturer to build new cars. Do you think, from an economic standpoint, that the monorail is going to live beyond 10 years, or are they just going to reutilize the tracks and perhaps expand them? Because, transportation is a huge issue. And I mean, during Formula One and the run-up to Formula One and post, getting an Uber from A to B for a 10-minute journey now takes a lot longer.
Yeah, Sam, I know a lot of people say that. I have to tell you, that's not the experience that fans have had, or I had, even when I went down to the race. Getting to the race, because of the way that it's dispersed, really wasn't a challenge whatsoever. I think there's a lot of sort of concern about the fact that Ubers would be difficult to get to, or that traffic would just be in gridlock. And certainly in 2024, in 2023, when the track was being reconstructed and the headquarters building was being built out, where the garages and the paddock is, was a challenge. But in reality, if you look at Uber and Lyft and mobility during the race, it's pretty outstanding, to be perfectly honest about that. When we think about the LVCVA, I think we have to think about, and transportation broadly, and I could not agree with you more. I think transportation may be one of the top 5 issues that the state of Nevada is going to be dealing with. And it's not just sort of inner community mobility, both north and south, but I think we start to think about, what's going to happen with I-15 and what's going to happen with I-80. These are going to be defining things for us in the state of Nevada, because they're so important to our commerce. And now we have things like transportation going underground, the loop, and as you mentioned, the monorail. Look, I don't know what's going to happen with the monorail, but I tell you what I do know, and that is that I think it is in incredible hands. I mean, Steve Hill has been remarkable for this community. His guidance, his foresight, his vision relative to what he's trying to accomplish. We wouldn't have the Loop project today. I don't know that we'd have many of the projects, Allegiant Stadium or Tesla, those type of things, all of which he worked on either in his current capacity or in a prior capacity. And I think, that organization is going through the evaluation of what is the best way to utilize that asset. What we do know today is they've taken an asset that was losing money and transformed it into one that's making money. And now they are utilizing that and working collaboratively with the community to find ways to maximize the utility of the monorail as part of an integrated transportation system. And Sam, that seems exactly right to me. Whether they use that and continue it to move forward, whether it faces some type of functional obsolescence, and then we ultimately end up utilizing that for another above grade element of the Loop transportation system, I think either one of those will ultimately work. But what I think is most important is that we're thinking about it now, and that we're thinking about it collaboratively.
Exactly. All right, let's take one more break. We'll be right back. As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Fantastic cocktails and delicious food. It's a good time to eat. Over 500 hot slots plus electronic table games.
It's a good time to play.
Player rewards and big-time jackpots.
It's a good time to win.
Ooh, your good times at Tamarack.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the heat back on today. Call us today and we'll fix it today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why freeze for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your furnace fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
Here on 7 at 7, we're bringing you the local headlines in just 7 minutes.
We've got you covered in the morning, evening, and for all breaking news in between and as it happens.
Life is busy, and we don't waste your time. Join us for local news now streaming on our YouTube page.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Jeremy Aguero of Applied Analysis. The movie industry wants to move in big time into the state of Nevada. My suggestion has been call Tyler Perry because he seems to have done it quite well in Georgia. What are your thoughts briefly on the movie industry coming to Nevada?
Look, I don't think we have all the information yet. I mean, right now, what we have is two remarkable companies that are looking to come into Southern Nevada, and it seems like they keep raising the ante relative to what that type of investment will be. Again, there's the devil's in the details on this one, and we're looking forward to seeing all of those details as they continue to emerge.
And I look forward to seeing this conversation continue when I come down to Vegas in a couple of months. Thank you so much for doing this, Jeremy.
Oh, gosh, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, and we'll be right back. Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers. We'll see you on the next broadcast.